What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Photographer Diaries. And on today's episode, we're talking about what I feel is the ultimate vlogging camera for 2021. So let's cue that intro and get into it. Okay, so recently I just picked up a second camera, and I purchased this camera for a B camera, right? So I wanted to basically test the capabilities of this camera as a B camera for my wedding films, and I just needed a camera that can capture a second angle, right? What stood out to me in this camera, it had a flippy screen and it has a full frame sensor, and if you know me, you know that I shoot on Sony. So what is that camera? Well, it's the Sony A7C. I think this camera is honestly one of the best vlogging cameras on the market right now. Yes, it is a little pricey. At a price point, I think I paid like a little over $1,900 for it. I think it makes sense to go with a full frame sensor and a camera like this. This camera has amazing colors straight out of the camera. It has like probably the best autofocus and it's got a flippy screen. This camera is so good, but it's not perfect. It's got some things that I personally don't like. This mostly goes into the photo realm of the camera. So I was testing this camera actually yesterday in the studio, and I was doing a studio session, and I mean, it's not a camera geared towards photographers. The EVF on it, like electric viewfinder, is really unusable. And like I watched all these videos, Jared Polin and all these other dudes that like reviewed this camera and did a really in-depth review. I'm not one to do these crazy like in-depth reviews. I watch them, I don't do them, right? So everyone's talking about this viewfinder like it's unusable. And when I first saw the camera, I was like, oh, you could just put another eye cup over it. Nope, you can't. You can't remove the eye cup. What you get is what you get. It is pretty unusable. In the studio, in a dark setting, I think that you can get away with it for at least reviewing images and maybe composing some shots and stuff like that. I've never been the one to kind of look on your live view screen and take photos. It's just not me. Like, I'm not Jason Lanier or any of those other guys. Like, it's just not my style on how I shoot. But the images you get are really, really good. Like, this camera has really great dynamic range. All those other specs and stuff, go look it up. Amazing, right? The one thing that I was really frustrated with, so I was taking photos in the studio and I was doing a portrait session with a model, and I was shooting at my normal settings that I have dialed into my A7 III that I do in my studio. And I kept finding it like, they're like really dark, and I was like, what is going on? Crank up my ISO, getting some images like, no, this is wrong. Then come to find out, the sync speed on this camera is only 1/60th of a second, which is a huge bummer. It's doable. You can work away. I mean, you can work around it and stuff like that, but I really wish that they would have stayed with the sync speed in the A7 III, which is 1/250th of a second. But it didn't really bum me out that much. I didn't buy this camera to really shoot photos with it. I mean, I did, but more so street style and all that stuff, a travel camera. I bought this camera as a B camera and a vlogging camera, and that's where this camera really excels and succeeds in. So here's some sample footage of me walking around, just kind of testing the camera out. I might not use the audio. The audio was a little bad. It was really windy, but you could kind of see this camera in action. The flippy screen, to me, it works really well, but I find myself always looking at the screen. I've never had a camera with a flippy screen, so I'm used to looking at the lens and knowing where, you know, if you have a wide enough lens, you're gonna be in the frame and you should know how to frame it. And when I have that flippy screen, I kind of like always look off to the side, and you could see, I mean, even now, right now, I'm recording this with my Atomos Ninja 5, and I still kind of find myself looking up at the Atomos. So it's just something you got to get used to. Maybe you could, what I like to do is basically like, I'll flip the screen out, compose myself, flip the screen back and just record. I don't even look at it. And now the other day, actually, when I first bought this camera, I walked around my block and I took some photos with it. I was using the Tamron 17-28 2.8 lens, and just the image qualities that I got out of this was amazing. Like, it was so good that I was really, really pumped to use this camera. Like, it's such a good camera to be able to just walk around with and have on you, and that's why I bought this camera. So if you're in the market for a new vlogging camera and you have the money to spend on something like this, I highly recommend the A7C. I really think it's a great vlogging camera. It is a little pricey, but like I said, if you're really serious about it and you want to drop some cash, get this. And paired with the Tamron 17-28 millimeter lens, I think that's like the perfect setup. I mean, this right here, this is the Tamron 28-75 lens, and I mean, this is still a pretty good size setup, right? Little Movo mic on here and you're good to go. That's all you need. This is my video for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, create, document, inspire. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.